Hello, I'm Rabbi Bob Alper, speaking to you from my home in Vermont, and I'm going to read another story to you. It's from my book. Thanks, I needed that. There we go. And Other Stories of the Spirit, available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, Kindle. I love reading my stories, and some people tell me they love hearing them. So before I begin, and this will take it's about a 10-minute story. Before I begin, let me remind you, I'm Rabbi Bob Alper. I'm a rabbi, a stand-up comic, author. My comedy you can find on my website, which is www.bobalper, BOBALPER.com. There's some video of me performing alone, of me performing with my Muslim and Christian colleagues. You can watch that. There's my performance schedule. You'll see where I'm doing my stand-up comedy and links to purchasing the books. So this story, all my stories are close to my heart, but this one in particular, I hope you like it. I hope you'll understand why it's so important. It's called How a Thick Wire and a Smart Lady Changed Our Lives. Dracula was not amused. Our very ordinary looking but beloved brown tabby, his full moniker was Cat Dracula, a name bestowed on him as a kitten by our then 8-year-old son, had ruled the family for 12 years in 3 different homes in 2 states. He was a fine pussycat and even became a veteran traveler. Our 3rd child regularly made the 6-hour trip between Philadelphia and Vermont, usually curled up in Sherry's lap, with one paw resting on my right forearm as I drove the car. We would place a small pan of kitty litter on the floor in the back seat. We soon discovered that for some reason, the air in New Jersey always served for Dracula as a laxative. The previous owner of our house in Philadelphia suburbs had, at one time, rented the property to a couple equipped with the morality of fruit flies. When they moved out, they simply left their large orange cat, Caesar. Fortunately, one of the neighbors took pity on the abandoned cat and adopted him, but occasionally after we arrived, Caesar became disoriented, tried to return to his now cat-friendly former home, and in so doing encountered a definitely inhospitable Dracula. The orange fur on the lawn always served as a telltale sign. Drac took no pleasure from invited animal visitors either. After we made the permanent move to Vermont, Sherry's aunt and uncle arrived with their adorable little gray schnauzer. Our cat instantly leapt on the small dog's back, claws engaged. The poor innocent pup had to be exiled to the car for the duration of the evening. So there was a distinct absence of purrs and affectionate rubbing on the sunny January afternoon when Dracula first met his new housemate, his canine brother-to-be, our new dog, Giddy. Giddy, or more properly Gideon, as if a dog knows his real name or even cares, Giddy arrived with a convoluted, interesting background. We had been living in very rural Vermont for a couple of years, and even though Sherry's a native Vermonter, we felt like distinct outsiders. As we drove through our town, we realized that ours was among the very few cars without a dog sitting in the front passenger seat, either leaning out the window on balmy days or rubbing a wet nose and drooling on the inside window during colder months. Oh, the shame. Plus, since I travel frequently, Sherry and I thought that a good-sized dog would provide both companionship and protection for Sherry and our daughter, then still in high school. I guess people choose dogs similar to themselves, and since none of the Alpers consider themselves to bear fancy pedigrees, though we definitely are nice people, we decided that a mongrel, a young adult, one similar to Miracle, our son's fabulous Shepherd Lab mix, would do just fine. We visited a few nearby kennels and left word as to what we were seeking. Shouldn't be too hard a bill to fill. Within a few weeks, we received a call from the Bennington Kennel Club. They had precisely the dog we were looking for. In fact, they had just received 3 dogs they were particularly eager to place. We headed south, leash in hand. When we arrived, and before the dogs were brought out of their kennels for their "Please Take Me Home With You" parade, we learned that these 3 were victims of Hurricane Andrew, the storm that had devastated the area south of Miami 5 months earlier. Some pets were blown away as their homes were destroyed, while others had to be surrendered by families forced to move temporarily into tents. Most had been living in crowded pounds for months until volunteers organized Andrew's Angels, flying dogs to kennels throughout the country, hoping for successful placements. Thus briefed and thoroughly softened up emotionally, we were ushered into a training room where the little procession commenced. First out, a sort of dachshund mix, nervous, cute, wriggling against the arms of the shelter volunteer carrying her. Too small. Next, a wiry gray terrier type was led out on a leash, looking frightened and fearful. No, we weren't interested. We'd wait to see contestant number 3, the Shepherd Lab mix that fit our requirements perfectly. As soon as that final dog was led into the room, he took a quick look around, bolted to the side, and urinated on the wall. Some first impression. We stood by confused, waiting for the Shepherd Lab mix to emerge, wondering if there had been an error. This dog had neither Shepherd nor Lab in him, more of a combination Collie and Golden Retriever. He strutted about the place, sniffing everything, of course, happy to escape confinement, full of himself, and a real take-charge guy. Cute. Very cute. About a year old, 55 pounds, with plenty of energy and self-confidence, he continually wore one of those open-mouthed dog smiles while wagging his tail with nearly lethal enthusiasm. "Thanks, but we're not interested," I reported to the kennel director. "We have our heart set on finding a dog just like our son's. We'll continue looking." This said as Sherry leaned down and began a one-way conversation with that 3rd dog. Uh-oh. 30 minutes later, following the signing of papers outlining the care we promised to provide and our commitment to have our new pet neutered, the 3 of us headed north to our home and to Dracula. The introduction went something like this. Giddy. "Hi, I'm the new pup in the family. Pleasure to meet you. How about a sniff?" Dracula. Hiss, hiss, spit, hiss, yow, spit. It never got better. Dracula, after all, was 12 years old and in no mood to change his settled ways. We sensed that from the moment the boys met, and it was confirmed a few days later when Giddy rounded a corner and surprised Dracula lolling in the backyard. The cat bolted from his resting place, raced about 20 feet, and climbed the nearest tree, which was me. In a split second, he clawed his way up my body, ending up across my shoulders after putting a deep gouge in the highest branch, which throughout my life I have referred to as my nose. Dracula spent many hours each day on the upper floors of our home, out of Giddy's way. Giddy, meanwhile, was acclimating himself to our home. Slowly, very slowly. Tip-off that he wasn't fully housebroken. Giddy confirmed the suspicion immediately, and we went to work. Particularly helpful was a dog training video declaring that if a dog messes in the house, the best thing to do is to take a few sheets of newspaper, roll them up very tightly, and then smack yourself in the head. Because it's your fault. It went on to recommend proper timing for walks and effective ways to reward good behavior. It worked for Giddy. The primary problem we had with our new dog once again involved the cat. Cat poop, to be specific. It turns out for dogs, cat excrement is a gourmet delicacy. We kept the kitty litter in the basement, which Giddy soon discovered, and in short order, his visits to what we eventually called Giddy's Buffet became a regular part of his daily routine. We tried to intercept him, to yell, "Bad dog," whenever we could catch him in the act, but nothing seemed to work. Dog breath is bad enough. Dog breath seasoned with cat poop, beyond description, and a deal breaker. Between his encounters with the cat, the slow progress in housebreaking, and then his raids on the litter box, Giddy had tipped the scales of my patience. I'm embarrassed to admit that I chose to throw in the towel, to bring him back to the kennel, surrender him, and get an easier animal. I called to report my decision and arranged a drop-off. Fortunately, the woman at the kennel club reacted not with anger or condemnation, but with patience. She asked about my reasoning, and I explained how the litter snacking was the last straw. "I can't watch him all the time," I moaned. He's a smarty, sneaks into the cellar when we're not looking and chows down." The woman thought for a minute, then suggested, "Why not try this? Just latch the cellar door with a few inches of thick wire so it's open wide enough for the cat, but not for the dog." Which we did. Giddy turned out to be one of the world's premier dogs. A few years later, shortly after Dracula died, we brought Giddy to the animal shelter so he could pick out his own kitten. Giddy got along marvelously with Floyd and our later addition, Al, full name Al Purr. Dracula is buried in our garden, and out of respect for their relationship, Giddy is buried up on the hillside. His small marble plaque reads, "Giddy, 1992-2006, golden tail held high, sniffing the wind." We adore our splendid new dog, Barnett. Occasionally he'll chase one under a table, but the moment he stops, the cat will emerge to give Barney a gentle nuzzle. We often think of Giddy, blessing his memory, and feeling gratitude for all the happiness he gave us through the years. And we remark to one another how amazing it is that years and years of such joy hinged on one tiny bit of wisdom, one somewhat obvious though overlooked solution, one very small act, a 5-inch piece of wire that partially closed a cellar door. And here's a picture of Giddy.